Welcome to episode 27 of the Dealers Compressed podcast. My name is Paul J. Daly. I will be your host today. 27 is a special podcast because if you add 2 and 7 together, you get 9. And 9 happens to be the number of the Super Bowl MVP quarterback, Nick Foles, who happens to play for that team, the Eagles, who's in Philadelphia. So happy about that. And going to talk about a few things today. Want to talk about community, some interesting announcements from CDK Global and Lyft, the ride-sharing service. Also going to talk about kind of what's going on in the Dealers Compressed community and some cool things that are happening. And so, you know, when I think of Nick Foles and the Eagles, there's nothing more community related than the city of Philadelphia after winning a Super Bowl, the first one ever. Yeah, I guess Philly's just the city of brotherly love. And there's just a lot of community in general. I mean, of course, the stuff like cheesesteaks we talk about, and people, oh, you go to Philly, get a cheesesteak. And just a little word of advice from a Philly kid. If you have to call it a Philly cheesesteak, it's not a Philly cheesesteak. So just saying, it's just sales talk when you say Philly cheesesteak. It's a steak or a cheesesteak. And yeah, so I digress. So today's theme is cultivating community. And you know, there are a lot of benefits of community. I happen to think that community is just hardwired into us as humans. And generally speaking, when you see somebody who is outside of community, when you see someone who doesn't want to respond to community, it's usually someone who's like doing their own thing and they don't want to be accountable, or they're trying to get away with something, or they're trying to hide something. And so, you know, Seth Godin talks about community quite a bit, actually. He talks about it in the terms of like tribal thinking, or he says, you know, find the others. And we've talked about this before in the podcast where, you know, Olympic athletes wake up, you know, stupid early, like at 4 a.m, and they go and they do these crazy exercise and crazy workouts. They eat crazy diets, and everyone else looks at them and says, you're nuts. But within their community, that's just normal. And community has really that benefit. So I started thinking, like, what comes first? The community or the leader? You know, so it's kind of not really a chicken and the egg conversation, but honestly think about it. Like, does it take a leader to rise up and believe in something in order for a community to rally around that person who is willing to say it or do it or take the first step? Or is that community actually exist? And from that community that has that shared belief and has that shared goal, you know, the leader kind of rises up and steps in front. So I'm curious to know what you think. I know what I think. I think that the beliefs exist first, but it takes someone with courage and someone with enough conviction to step up. And then once they do, you hear a lot of people stand up and say, oh, yeah, right, the Me Too movement, we've seen that happen, right? Somebody stands up and then a lot of other people stand up and say Me Too. So this isn't, you know, about that, but I think it's a great example of community because the first person to step up and the first person to lead draws that similar value or similar experience out of other people. My wife and I just got done watching Saving Private Ryan again, and it's interesting to watch the community that develops through that movie based on the actions of the leader and based on the courage and the bravery, even in the midst of fear of the general. So I think the community exists and the leader comes up and unifies it. But there are a lot of great things about community. There's it's a unifying factor, obviously. There's safety in community. When we have community, there is progress because, you know, we have shared ideas and values and we can bounce those things off one another and encourage and push back and all that refining process. A big factor is there's accountability. Accountability is a massive benefit of community. When I'm convinced that if we go out on our own and eventually, like Lone Rangers, people who don't want to be around other people, eventually you're going to convince yourself that your way of thinking is the absolute right way outside of community. So there's an accountability factor to community. And let's bring it all the way down to the bottom. Like, we find meaning in community. We define ourselves by our community, and that community starts small by those closest to you, often your family. As you get older, you can choose your community. So, you know, when you're younger and you're still like within a family unit, like you can't choose not to be part of that family unit. But as you grow up, you pick your friends, you choose where you work, you choose who you follow, who you listen to. You choose who you spend your time around, and that's how you define meaning. So the process of community and the phenomenon, I don't know if it's a phenomenon, but the natural state of community, I think, is really helpful. So my encouragement to you would be find the others. So it's kind of a Seth Godin thing. He's find the others, find that tribe, find the other people that believe those things so you can have the accountability and the safety and the meaning in that community. And I would encourage you to find communities who are optimistic and positive, and they want to make a positive difference, and they encourage you in the things that you believe in. And for those who spend time in this community, in the Dealers Compressed community, there are some really cool things going on. So last week I said that I wanted to get more guests on the show. Okay, so the camera just went out. So I said last week that I want to get more guests on the program, and we have an awesome guest lined up for next week. Should I tell you who it is or not? No, I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'll tell you some things about him. So, very progressive automotive dealer. I joke around and say his dealership is north of nowhere, so it's like really nowhere. And he sells a disproportionate amount of vehicles to the amount of people in the community. He's an entrepreneur. He's not car guy pedigree. I think he really fits in well with what we're trying to do in this community here. And when I spoke with him, he said that he found this community just through social media. I don't know if it was Driving Sales Blog, and he started watching some of the content and listening, and he was introduced to Dale Pollak through this content. And that just made my heart full, because the reason that we set out to build this community was to raise awareness of the progressive thinkers, to gather the like-minded people around the content, and so that we would all learn and all grow. And that was just evidence of it happening. So the Dealers Compressed community is growing. That 10% of dealers who consider themselves proactive, forward-thinking, are joining every day and every week. So next week's guest is going to be an example of that. So what else in the Dealers Compressed community? I'm really happy, and it's really fun to announce that I was accepted to speak at 2 sessions. So one session at the one session at the Driving Sales Executive Summit in November, and also going to be giving a session at NADA convention in San Francisco in January. So I think that's a little indicative of this community growing and the message getting out there. Finally, something cool happened this week. Our friends at Hierology, they reached out and they said, hey, your audience is of value, and we think your message and our message are the same. So we're having our annual convention, the Elevate convention, or the Elevate conference, in October. I think it's when I wrote it down here. It's on October 2nd in Chicago. And they said, we would love to just give your listeners and viewers a discount. So we'll put that link in the bottom. If you go to, I don't know what the URL is, but we'll link it up. And if you use the promo code they gave us, you'll get 10% off your registration. So I think that's another great element of this community, and saying, hey, the message is starting to move forward. And those of us who think progressively and want to be on the front edge, it's easier and easier to do that because we have found each other. And oh, that's so sweet. We found each other. And there's actually real value and meaning and accountability there. So those are some fun things to talk about as well. So finally, let's talk about what happened recently, this new announcement from CDK Global about this new data integration with the ride-sharing service Lyft. And I wanted to talk about this today because the press release came out. I know there was talk about it months ago, but it's been launched. CDK is doing some cool things. Again, this is not a sponsored podcast in any way, shape, or form. I'm just talking about the things that I think are interesting and progressive. So CDK, they have their Fortellis platform, which this is not my strong suit, the data side of things, but I think I do my best to understand it and wrap my head around it. I did have a FaceTime conversation this morning with Tom Miller, the director of sales for CDK, and he kind of explained it to me, and let's be honest, he had to dumb it way down to get to my level, but he did a really good job. So CDK has been working on Fortellis Net platform, and the way I think about it is that, we often say that, we got to play in the same sandbox, and we work and we build things together. Well, Fortellis, in my opinion, is like CDK built this sandbox so that all these other vendors and developers can all be a part of this community that share and develop different APIs and integrations so that now we can have all these options to overlay on dealership data and provide different services and really start to fine-tune the way dealers can offer services to customers. And all of this to hopefully offer a better customer experience so that everybody in this industry or everyone who's paying attention can win. It's something we've been talking about on this podcast for a long time, and that is the desire Dale mentions in his book, Like I See It, talking about vendors and solution providers working together, more open-handed to all like 360 improve the things and the opportunities and the solutions that are available to dealers so that we can, in turn, offer a better customer experience. And this is an awesome example of that happening. In my opinion, I love it. And I mean, I don't know how to use it. I don't know anything about it really, but I love the principle of it. And I'm just going to trust, I don't know, can I call them data nerds? I mean, I love data nerds. I kind of wish I was one. So I'm going to trust that it works. So either way, Lyft thought it was good and Lyft partnered with CDK. So now this new integration really cuts down on, helps dealers save money through ride-sharing services for service customers. So the best I understand it is I book a service appointment, I bring my car to the dealership, and right there at the point of sale, the service advisor, whatever, can type in the destination where I need to go, dial up the ride-share, and it's all integrated, and then my Lyft shows up, I hop in it, leave my car behind, I get where I need to go, and the dealership has my car. Convenient for me, convenient for the dealer. They save money on shuttle services. I get to go exactly where I want. I don't have to ride in a van with people that may be a little weird. And so like I get a private ride to where I'm going. So I think it really does deliver a great customer experience. And especially for like warranty work, it says in the press release, hey, we can bill that right back to the manufacturer, as part of the warranty program. So to me, it sounds like a win. To me, it sounds like deploying great resources through, shared collective development that deliver a better customer experience. And it works better for the dealer. And it seems like it's pretty convenient for the manufacturer. So a triple win. And I thought it was good to bring this up in the sense that this is the community activity that we need more of, not just in the dealership world, but in business in general, because I believe that, when you work together, even as competitors or even as some people who might be competing in one space, but not others, it's great to collaborate, and open-handed always wins, in my opinion. So I wanted to bring that up because I thought it's worth bringing up. I think it's worth celebrating. I think CDK is one of the companies that have stepped up, that amidst the community that all believe, hey, we should be working together. I wish CDK said, we do too. We're going to step out and do it. Here's a great integration. And frankly, I think it gives them a great competitive advantage. And I think it's going to lead the way for hopefully other companies to do the same thing. And when we all work together, innovation is going to grow at a faster rate. Development is going to grow at a faster rate. And I think we're going to see some things start to pop up. I'm really curious to watch how this Fortellis platform grows, because I think this is just the first of many, many, many good things that are going to make it better for the customer experience. So coming all the way back on episode 27, community. Community is important to us in the dealership world. It's important to us in the marketing world. It's important to us in the dealer's compressed world because we can unite around these common things. It's important just as a person. It's important to find that community because that's where there's meaning and accountability. And yeah, I guess I could beat that horse and it's already dead. I could keep beating it just because that horse deserves to get beat. I don't know. That came out weird. All that to say, thank you for being part of this community. We're going to post up the links to all the stuff we talked about today. We're going to post that Hierology convention, the Elevate convention. We're going to post the promo code and the links there. I hope you take advantage of it. I'm actually going to go, so I hope to see you there. As usual, if you know of anything that's cool or innovative in the industry you think we should cover, please let me know. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'd love to talk. I'd love to help. I love to keep cultivating this community of people who care for one another and care about this industry and want to be better and want to have a little bit of fun doing it too, because we don't take ourselves too seriously. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next week. Oh, I thought I didn't hit record. I did.